Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about The Biggest Loser Season 1. And I know you're like, what? Well, here's the thing. Once again, and I will check it again right now because that would be pretty funny if I purposefully rushed through the last 2 episodes and then all of a sudden the movie that I needed to watch popped up. There's no new release movie to watch, and the whole final 2 movies of the Robot Week, those kind of fell through because they kind of weren't connected very much anyways. So we were going to review Weird Science, which I've never seen. I don't think Safi has seen it either. And then we were also supposed to review Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster, which sounded fun. But instead, yesterday, I just did the Hell's Kitchen, and today, there was no new release or anything, and so I just thought, well, I have been watching The Biggest Loser, because every once in a while, I get in a Biggest Loser mood, because it's a very fun show. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. I mean, it is like the number one guilty pleasure television show for me, because you watch it and you know that it's not healthy. You know that there was a lot of screwed up things that happened behind the scenes, and you know that a lot of contestants, they just gained all the weight back. But it's still such a good show all these years later. In fact, this is 2024. The first season of The Biggest Loser came out in 2004, which was when I was like 6 years old. Well, I was 6 years old in December, but the rest of the year I was 5. So this is kind of fun. We're going to start reviewing the whole series. Well, I am going to. And starting with this season, we already reviewed the reboot season, which was terrible. I mean, I think that, I applaud them for trying to make a show about losing weight for the reboot, but it was a terrible execution. They were trying to make it too much like the original, while at the same time they were trying to make it healthier, but they really weren't. It was really, really weird. It was like this weird hybrid where it clearly needed to be revamped and fixed, and all the fixes that they made to the show were stupid and they just did not work at all. And so all the stuff where it felt like the original show, all of it was kind of like, this is terrible. This is not the old show, and it's not any good new show. It's just still shit. But a little background on The Biggest Loser for me is that when I was an overweight kid, I would watch this show. And it was very motivational in terms of it really, really makes you want to get up and do something, It really does that. Every single episode, and I keep forgetting too, because every time I see the show again, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna go work out right now. Because every episode is almost like a movie. That's how long each episode is. I bet the television networks miss having that, because nowadays they're like, we can't overstay our welcome, so everything has to be really short, and we can't really, tell good stories and have long TV shows, even though that's what TV shows are. But The Biggest Loser, it was really motivational, and it really, really always motivated me. The problem was that the show was not very good at giving actual advice about losing weight. It was very empty motivation. It was very surface level just work it, because the message that I took from the show as a kid was to just work out until you're practically dead. Like, I remembered, like, as a kid, the first time that I went to the gym, my goal wasn't even to, like, just work out and, like, start, doing all the right exercises and doing everything right. No, my goal, when the first time that I went to gym, was to make myself throw up because I was watching this show. And, I'm not saying that that's the show's fault, because obviously, they have all the stupid disclaimers, but I'm saying that, like, the show is really surface level, and it's not really showing you a healthy process of losing weight, and it's also not, like, they're not really being transparent either, because it's been revealed that they did all this terrible stuff behind the scenes, like competitors would take all these drugs and things, and it's really, really bad. And, like, apparently the workouts, they completely ruined the metabolism of all the contestants, basically. And I think that that's terrible. And the show, I think one of the things that I would have changed based on season 1, before we start walking our way through the season, one of the things that I would have changed was to show the process in the first couple of episodes in detail. The diet, the exercise, everything, all the things, like, show, like, okay, how many sets, how many reps for their workouts, what exactly are they doing? But if they do this, though, it would prove that what they're doing is not healthy. And I think that that's kind of the issue, is that this show is sort of like the junk food of weight loss shows. I mean, I don't think there's any other weight loss show, but it's like the junk food, because it's showing this very unhealthy transformation that all these contestants are doing, but the result in the show is such a great result. It's such a great show. It's such a fun, amazing program that you almost don't even care. Even though people are being injured, and apparently that was covered up too, and they were called lazy and stuff like that if they didn't want to work out when they were injured, like, all that stuff is really, really bad. But if I wanted to make a weight loss show, I would want the audience to feel like they're a part of the show, so that they can apply what the show is teaching the contestants, because that's the whole fucking point of the show. The whole point is that you have these contestants, and they're all losing weight, and they can all give speeches to the audience and motivate people in the audience to lose weight too. And yet you don't really see any of that stuff. Like, I mean, you see it, but you don't get to, like, really know what they're doing, their diets especially. Like, I was really shocked rewatching this season of just not, you hardly see any dieting stuff at all. Like, the only like part that I saw that was, like, kind of more in detail was that later on in the season, it had been revealed that, like, the girls were starving themselves because they were so, like, paranoid that they didn't want to eat, like, even 1,200 calories. And that's like a starvation diet. So, that's pretty bad. They were so scared. And Jillian, their trainer, she had to encourage them to eat. And she had to, so I thought that was terrible. And, that's another thing with the show, is that, like, the whole dieting thing, because when I watched the show as well, all I thought losing weight was going to the gym and working out for 5 hours until you threw up. Like, the show didn't have, like, any focus on dieting at all, except for, like, oh, you can't eat this and you can't eat that, you can't eat this and you can't eat that, or else you're screwing up the Temptations challenges. So I think that was like a major flaw of the show, was not taking the audience into detailed like steps through the process. Like what if they reach a plateau? I mean, they all reached a couple of plateaus, but there was never any like explanation of like, okay, do they increase the working out? Do they decrease calories a little bit? Like, what do they do when that happens? What do they do when this happens? There was none of that. It was just, this is a game show. They're all doing these intense workouts and they're hardly eating anything. And it's just magically everything comes off. And so, obviously, as a kid, when I worked out as a result of the show, nothing really happened. Like it was just very, very disappointing, I would say. That I was like, I'm doing everything the Biggest Loser are doing, and I'm not getting any result at all. And it was only that, like, through many years of experimentation and, trials and tribulations that I finally accomplished that goal. Well, I'm still in the middle of accomplishing that goal, but it took a long, long time. And it was not as simple as just like, oh, you got to go to the gym and work out until you throw up or cry or something like that, or pass out. Like that's idiotic and stupid if you think that that's what losing weight is about. So this show, I'm not going to like walk people through the process of the show because I think that's kind of gay. That's like what you call like a recap show, which I think are kind of pointless because, like, it's one thing to review a show where you talk about stuff that happened and then say I liked or didn't like that and why, but it's another thing for people to just, like, practically explain every minute of an entire show as if the audience didn't actually even watch the show, or something like that. Like, I really don't like recapping. I hate it. And so let's recap. I'm just kidding. First off, the show starts off with, oh yeah, I should also get into personal connections, because another thing that I wanted to do, and I know that this is probably bad too, because I was not even able to get this accomplished either, but one of the things that I did was I tried to go around and find all the Biggest Loser contestants on Facebook and add them as friends, and then maybe get their advice or get their friendship and support. And so the second place winner of the season, actually, I mean, he was not the winner of the season, but the second place guy, Gary, I actually was friends with him on Facebook for a long time, and he was extremely, extremely nice. Like, even though we were just friends on Facebook and he never even knew me before or anything, like, he was extremely cool and nice. And I just gotta say, like, he is definitely like a top tier reality show contestant. Like, I think that he is like a unicorn in the reality show universe, because by the end of the season, there was really hardly any moments in the season where you really dislike Gary or think that he's doing something really bad or manipulative or something. There's so many other contestants where even if you like them, they had that one moment or that one show, that one episode, that one thing that they did was that, like, you really, really hate. And I think that, Maurice, he's one of those characters who, I really liked him as a kid. I was disappointed that I couldn't find him on Facebook because he was like another very inspirational character, but he had several moments where you go, wow, like, he's really trash, compared to Gary. Gary is he's the greatest. And so right off the bat, like, even before we get into the show, My favorite contestant of the season was Gary, easily. He was extremely nice. He was extremely inspirational in terms of he really, really accomplished something with this season. And, you can look up to him for sure if you want to look up to someone to lose weight. And, yeah. So right off the bat, we're going to talk about a lot of problematic things, a lot of funny things that happen on this show. And so the show actually starts off with the narrator, and the narrator says, "These people all have one thing in common. They're fat." It's really, really funny. Like, that's the first thing that they say. Like, it's just so, like... I can just imagine someone watching this from nowadays and just being like, "Oh God," and that's the first thing they say. And then they're introducing the trainers, and for some reason, Bob, the trainer, one of the two trainers, he has to stand on top of a mountain while they introduce him, and I thought that was really queer. Because it's like, okay, we get it. You're like a really good trainer, I guess. I mean, we haven't even, at that point, we hadn't even seen him, do anything with the contestants or prove that he's a good trainer. But right off the bat, like, he's standing on top of a mountain and they're doing like a helicopter shot of him. And I thought that's one of the queerest things I've ever seen, because it was so unnecessary and so unneeded. But then again, it is kind of funny. It is kind of like hilarious that, like, they're treating this as like some grand, epic, type of thing, and it's just like a show about people losing weight. And you have the trainer, he's standing on top of a mountain, and then I can't even remember how Jillian was introduced. I think she was just standing in a gym, like a normal trainer. I can't remember though. And then also I will say that there were a couple of contestants where, if you look at the statistics for the contestants, there were a couple who were really, really underweight. Like, they were not in terms of like, they weren't skinny, but they were pretty like not very, they were pretty normal. They were, and they're even, I think within like a couple of episodes in the show, they all got into the normal BMI range. So that's how fine they were already. Like, they weren't that bad at the beginning compared to other contestants who were like gigantic, like Maurice or Dave or Kelly Mack or Brian. You had these three contestants. You had Aaron, Lizeth, and Dana. And Dana was hardly overweight at all. And no surprise, she was the first one to go home. And Lizeth, she was not very overweight. She was actually pretty hot, even like in the start of the show. And then Aaron. Now, Aaron is the one contestant where I really, really take exception to him. Or is that how you say it when you like you're when you don't like someone? Because, like, not that I didn't like him as a contestant or anything like that, but what I didn't like was that Aaron felt like he was a plant on the show to see if, like, people will watch the show and tolerate it if they have, like, a pretty boy, handsome guy there. Because he started off, and I was like, yeah, he's got a couple of pounds to lose, but he looks like someone who's from the Jersey Shore. He should not be someone who's on the show, because, like, you have all these other people who have, like, real weight issues on the show, and then you have that skinny guy who's hardly got any weight to lose, and he looks like a surfer dude who pulls all the chicks, and for some reason he's on the show. And it was so awkward too, because he'd be like interacting with the contestants at the elimination table, and you know, he was really upset when they voted him off, and it was like, bro, you are in the wrong club. Like, here, like, you should go on the Jersey Shore. Like, this whole thing where, like, he got really upset. It was really funny because it's like he had like 1 pound left to lose or something. Like, he was doing fine. And the fact that like how much weight did he want to lose? Like, did he want to lose like 100 more pounds so that he would be like a little shrimp or something? Like, that was really cringeworthy, because I thought, this is for sure the producers. The producers were saying, like, we need to have a plant on the show who's, like, really basically not fat at all. And, you know, that way people will actually watch the show, because no one would ever want to watch the show if it was just people who are all overweight and they all are really, really in bad shape. You know, we have to have that one handsome guy, that one Biggest Loser stud character who can make all the middle-aged women go, ah, and make all the gay guys like Bob go, ooh. You know, we got to have that one guy. You know, we can't have all ugly guys. Not that they're ugly, but like, we can't have all these guys who are, you know, they're lesser, you know, they're big guys. You know, we have to have that one guy who looks like you could see him hanging out with like 5 girls at a malt shop, fucking, you know, rocking next to the jukebox and, you know, sharing a milkshake with those 5 girls. Like, we got to have that one guy. And I just couldn't stand Aaron. I couldn't stand the fact that he was on the show with all these people. Like, it was so awkward. It's almost like a parody of, like, you see like a it would be like if South Park did like a Biggest Loser parody, which, by the way, they should do a Biggest Loser parody, because that would be hilarious. You know, especially now that the show's over and all these secrets have been revealed, it'd be funny to see like Cartman at the Biggest Loser. Even though I think they did do a Fat Camp episode with Cartman. It wasn't that good, though, from what I remember. It's not as good as a Biggest Loser parody would be. And he really felt like a plant. I mean, I don't know if anyone else felt like this, because a lot of people in the comments, they seemed to like him, and they seemed to think it was a huge mistake sending him home. And I will agree there that, look, I think a lot of voting decisions this season were really, really stupid. But these people voted the way that normal people who don't really know about strategizing and they're not really thinking about it in that way. That's how they were voting. You know, they were making very strange choices the whole season of like who to send home and who to keep there. Like, in particular, Maurice, he was a very likable guy, but he cheated a lot in the show. He really dragged the blue team down in challenges, you know, not because he was trying to, but just because that's how it worked out. And it was really confusing of like why they would not send him home. And it was funny because every episode that the blue team, after they had to eliminate someone, Bob would come in and he would almost have a heart attack because he was like, why have you not sent that guy home? And I think it was probably one of the best moments of the season, one of the funniest moments, is in like episode 8 or 10. I can't remember which one it was. In one of those episodes, Bob walks in and he sees Maurice is still there, and he's like, you made it, buddy. You made it. You made it through the gate. And like Maurice was just like sitting there like all innocently, and Bob was just like so pissed that he was still there, and it was really, really funny. But yeah, I do think that the voting this season, a lot of it was terrible. The only person, honestly, who did a pretty good job at voting was the guy who actually won, which is unfortunate because I don't really want to pay him very many compliments. He was the only one, or one of the only ones, who the whole season consistently he had a strategy and he was making all these smart decisions. I mean, he won the season because he was the only one who was actually voting smartly and actually like thinking about whom he was voting for. And I think that's another thing to mention. I also really didn't like a lot of the challenges or temptations. And one of them, now this was kind of a weird one because I don't think that they ever called it a Temptations challenge. It was just kind of there as a temptation. But one of them was when they woke up in the morning, they all went into the dining room and they saw all this junk food on the table, like breakfast junk food, like French toast, ham, bacon, all that crap. And it was weird because it was like, it was not set up as a challenge. They just had this junk food out basically to bait these overweight people into cheating and eating all this terrible food. So I thought that that was terrible, the fact that they did that, because I was really confused about their diets. They never really went into detail about their diets at all. And I felt like that was really frustrating because, you know, that's something, even as a kid, you know, I was very frustrated they wouldn't get into that so that I couldn't copy it or something like that, or just do a version of it, like a modified Biggest Loser diet. And so some of them were eating some of the junk food on the table, some of them weren't, and I was kind of like, you know, this is stupid because they're just, why did they even have this food out here? Was that a challenge? Like, it's dumb. So I really hated that. And then also, I think one of the grossest challenges was when the contestants had to pick up food in their mouths and drag it over, or they had to take it over and pile it up on top of itself. Like, they had to make a junk food pile by picking up food in their mouths. And I thought that that was really, really gross and bad. Like, you're making these contestants who are overweight, you're making them put all this food in their mouths, but they can't eat it. Like, that's just, it's terrible. Like, why would you do that? You can do fun challenges without doing it like that. So that's another thing. And then one of the women, I can't remember which one because I didn't write it down in my notes, she started going crazy because she didn't know if she was dieting correctly. And her trainer, I think it was Jillian, she just sat there like in complete shock, and she never even, or at least we never even got to see her consulting her after that. She just kind of sat there in shock and just wondering what's going on. And so I thought that that was really queer too. Because like this woman, it was like she was going crazy in the head. And she did not know if she was doing things correctly. And Jillian just sits there and is like, ooh, ooh. Or it might have been Bob. Or Bob was just sitting there like, ooh, ooh. You know, and it's like, what was she doing wrong? Was she dieting correctly? I don't understand. Like, they don't even go into detail. It's just like, oh, here's more drama. It's funny. It's drama. And then something that I really didn't like that Jillian did was one week she forced the contestants to not go to bed, apparently, and exercise instead. And I was like, you know, this is so unhealthy, it's not even funny at this point. I'm not really sure, though, if she actually forced them to not ever go to bed, but she said something like, I don't even want you guys to get any sleep. I just want you to work out all night long. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is not healthy at all. These people are, like, in hell, and they're doing something very, very bad for themselves in the name of television. And yeah, as I said, 5-hour workouts. I mean, ew. I work out like 45 minutes, maybe even if that. That's one of the big misconceptions about working out, is that the more time you spend in the gym, the better the results you're going to have. That's one of the biggest myths of working out. And then, as I said, a lot of them, like especially Aaron, a lot of them looked like they were already ready for the finale. And I think that that's just kind of queer, and it just shows that those people shouldn't have been there. And then here's another example of what makes the show bad. Somebody lost 13 pounds in a week, which a week might be like a couple of weeks, apparently. I'm not really sure how much time it actually is in the real world, but in the episodes, they're called 1 week. So, but this guy, he lost 13 pounds, and he said, I should have lost more weight. And I was like, see, this is the type of bullshit that makes the show feel bad. And then I also do not like the host. I know that they eventually get a different one, and she did a much better job. This host, she's just kind of awkward. She feels kind of like a personal assistant to the showrunners. Like the type of person who would be off camera directing the contestants rather than like the host who's talking in front of the camera. That's what she feels like to me. The way that she announces people's weights is just very, very tame. Like the way that she does the eliminations is just very, very tame and just kind of lame and just not interesting. So I'm glad that they eventually changed hosts. And then also, they did this weird challenge where they made all the contestants cook dessert foods to sell outside. They then overcharge for the food. So, for example, people could pay $20 to $30 for one brownie or for one cupcake, and I thought that's ripping people off, number one. And then also they're watching these American people eat these desserts. And I just thought it was so ironic that, like, on a show about weight loss, that you would have all these fat people cooking unhealthy junk food and then selling it to kids, to adults, to teenagers, and watching them eat it outside. Like, number one, you're torturing these contestants because they really want to eat it and they're not able to. But number two, these people, you're promoting unhealthiness. Like, they could have had a challenge where instead the goal would be to make healthy desserts and then sell them to people, or at least like get people to say like which one's better, or like or are they good at all? Like have people taste them and then like see like, can we make desserts that are healthy but they also taste really good? Because another thing is, who were they raising the money for? Because, like, you know what I mean? That's another weird thing, too, that I didn't even think about. They're selling all this junk food on the street. Who are they giving the money to? And what are they using the money for? Because, like, they're kind of, like, using these contestants as free labor to do this like weird thing that they do, and I just thought that was another thing that was very strange. And then I gotta say, Ryan was my second least favorite contestant on the show. He was very mean. He was kind of like a bully. I did not like him at all. There was this one elimination where he made this person think he wasn't going to vote them off the show. But then he was like, psych, actually, I'm voting you off. And it was such a mean thing to do. And his defense was, we're not curing cancer here. I want to have some fun on this journey. Like, that's his excuse for doing what he did. And I thought, this is a really bad look to have someone like this on this type of a show, where the goal is to spread positivity and to help everyone reach their goals. And you have someone like this who's like, he's kind of like a sneaky devil character. And then I think one of my favorite challenges was when the contestants had to write their own songs and they had to do their own dances. And Gary, he said that, like, I can do some old-fashioned dancing, and then the dancing that he did was really, really funny. But I really liked this challenge because the contestants really got to express themselves, and they got to have fun without really being laughed at. Like, I think a lot of the other challenges, it's almost like the show is poking fun at these people. And then there was one episode where I really didn't like how Bob got upset that the team didn't vote off 2 people. He basically made them feel bad for not getting sent home. And those people were Andrea and then I think Maurice. He was really mad that instead of voting them off, they voted off Aaron. And so he was really like upset at these people. And it's like, why are you treating them like they should have gotten sent home? Like, they didn't get sent home. They're still there. Like, deal with it. Like, that's so stupid. And then also, I thought another big red flag for the show was that one of the contestants was saying that they have to hide feeling badly or having sore knees because they will, if they admit that to the other contestants, they are afraid they will get sent home for being weak. And I think that's terrible. That's not healthy at all. And there were lots of times in the season where contestants were injured too. So that's another thing. Like, working out, it really shouldn't result in you being injured all the time, That's another thing. And then I think one of the most important things to talk about in the season is there was this one challenge which I think might be the worst challenge for me. Was that both teams, they had to run up the stairs in a skyscraper building all the way to the roof. And that just sounds like my worst nightmare. Like, that sounds like But the red team, it was just 2 contestants competing. You have Matt and Lisa. And Lisa started having a panic attack because she felt like she was trapped in this building. And Matt helped her out through this panic attack, and he was really trying to be nice to her, and he was trying to get through it, and he was there for her. And yeah, I imagine, what it would have been like, because, I've had that anxiety as well. And so I knew exactly what Lisa was going through. And I thought, it would be a terrifying challenge. And how does she pay Matt back, though, for helping her through her panic attack? Well, she blames him and pretends like he did something wrong by going faster than her on the stairs, which apparently led to her panic attack. Like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. of like, he was doing the challenge correctly, so therefore he's bad, and he's the reason why I had a panic attack. It's like, no, you would have had a panic attack regardless. Sorry. Come on. And I don't think that he knew that she had anxiety either. Like, if you don't know that someone has anxiety and something happens, then, how is that their fault? Like, if they knew that you had anxiety and they purposefully did things to make it worse and to make it to where you did have an attack, that would be something bad. But, like, if he was just trying to do the challenge and then you just so happen to have a panic attack, that's hardly his fault at all. So I really didn't like that. And this episode was where Lisa became the worst contestant of the season. I think she is definitely the worst one, her and Ryan. And then the best ones are Gary and Matt. And I say Matt just for helping out Lisa in this challenge. And later on in this episode, too, Lisa is talking about herself in the third person. That's a huge red flag. I don't think I've ever said, Marco is going to review this today. Like, no, that's really creepy and weird. That's a huge red flag for people. Yeah, and I really don't like Lisa because she's deciding for the team in another episode that Dave is the big bad man and she's got to send him home next. And she was basically treating it like her decision to send people home outweighed everyone else's opinions. And she was treating it like all the other people on the team would just do what she said so that they could all help her get to the finale and for her to win the season. And so I thought that was terrible. And then she and the girls, they all thought they were going to the finale together. And that was really queer. They were almost acting like the Barbies in the third act of Barbie. Where they thought that they were going to kick all the Kens out and, just like they did in that movie. And, no, that's not how it worked out in the show. And then Lisa spoke about herself in the third person another time, too. So that's 2 times in the whole season. That is like a big red flag, people. Like, I swear, if you find someone who talks about themselves in the third person, do not engage, because they're probably going to start attacking you with a butcher knife while they shout, "Hail Satan," or something like that. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, they're really crazy, okay? Like, don't do that. And then also, for some random reason, Jillian decides to make her contestants do 500 lunges, 500 push-ups, 500 squats, 500 this, 500 that. And I thought, that is terrible training. Like, you don't do that. That's not, like, it's so stupid and it's so, like, unhealthy. And then there's this one part where Lisa says, "I'm glad that Ryan won this challenge because him winning guarantees my safety." And so, you see how, like, self-centered she is with that type of thing? Like, I mean, that is very, like, selfish. And so then, I really like the challenge where the contestants had to put the weight that they lost back on via a weight vest, and then they had to run on the track to compete for whomever could run for the most time. And then another thing to mention is that they had this one challenge, which I felt like was one of the stupidest challenges of the season. It was rainy out, and I felt like they didn't know that it was going to rain. And so there was no host. The host was just mysteriously not there. There was no instruction manual for the challenge. There were just these platforms with balloons. And then there was a treadmill that was underneath a tent that was getting wet too. You could clearly see it was getting wet. And the contestants had to figure out themselves that they had to take the balloons and hold them as long as they could or something. And it was just such a shitty challenge. Because, like, they couldn't even have the host come out there in the rain. Like, what was up with that? Like, there needs to be a behind-the-scenes explanation for that. Because, like, there was no planning or no sort of, like... It was just, like, improv. Like, an improv challenge. Oh, God, I just threw up my lunch in my mouth. Oh. Oh, that was gross. Ew. Ew, I can still taste it. Oh. Ew. Oh. Oh. And so I would also like to give some background on the show because I've said almost everything I need to say about the show. My band teacher in 6th grade, he was the first band teacher I ever had. He was a really shitty band teacher, by the way. He was terrible. But he said, and everyone remembered this because everyone talked about it. The band teacher said that no one wants to watch a show where a bunch of fat people fall down. Like that was his analysis of The Biggest Loser. And so I just wanted to say that. Like, that's what some people thought of the show. You know, and he even, you know what was really gross, though, about my band teacher? Before he got fired or he quit after the first year of teaching, every morning he would always have these disgusting sweat spots under his arms. And I'm not just talking about a little bit of, like, sweat, but, like, his arms had these huge, like, pools of sweat. And it was so bad to the point of where they would be like that in first period. Like, because I had band first period. That was the first class of the day. And they were already sweaty like that and gross. And I had to see that, you know, the whole period. It was so gross seeing that. And so, like, the irony of him being like, you know, no one wants to watch a bunch of fat people fall down. But then you had him, and his arms were just drenched in sweat. It was so gross. And you know another funny thing, too? Besides being a closeted gay, which you could clearly tell, after he quit being the band teacher for our school, he gained a ton of weight. And so he got fat himself. And so that was the funny thing, too, is that, like, this whole time he had been, like, joking about, you know, no one wants to watch fat people fall down on The Biggest Loser. But then, you know, he quits being the teacher, and what happens with him? He gains a ton of weight. He doesn't look anything like he did. He's really fat. And so I just thought that's hilarious to mention that, you know, just, you know, that's how it is sometimes with people. Like, I get that, just no self-awareness and nothing. I don't know what happened with him, though. I don't know why he gained all that weight. It was pretty funny to see, though. And then also, there was one week where Gary, he was, like, ready to go home because he was just so... He had gotten to the point of where he wasn't really into it at all anymore. He was just done with everything. And it was so hilarious because at the end of this week, it was proven that Gary had lost the most weight out of everyone there that week. And I thought, that's really, really funny. Like, they were all so shocked and surprised. Like, on his week where, you know, his first week where he's just totally, totally done with everything, he has lost the most weight. And, you know, that was funny because they really wanted to get rid of him, too. So I would say that might be the best episode because, like, the whole episode, it was kind of like a dark episode where, you know, they really wanted to get rid of Gary. They were looking forward to it because the only people left were on the other color team. And they all they had a pact with each other that they would not vote for each other, which, Ryan, he didn't really care about that, but, Gary didn't know that anyway. And so, he was really worried about going home, and he was just done with it. And then Bob kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And so then at the end, though, he didn't even have to do anything, because he lost the most weight. He got to stay there for another week automatically. And I thought that was one of the top moments of the season, because he totally pulled the rug out from under them. And then also when Lisa gets eliminated, because Ryan, he backstabs Lisa. He does a very good thing. When he does that, though, Lisa said something that was very revealing and something that proves that what I said was true. Lisa said, "I should have gotten rid of Ryan when I had the power of my team." You know how stupid that sounds? The power of my team? Because that's like saying, your whole team, their only objective is to protect you and to vote for other people besides you. And so she really thought that, she had the power to just be there until the end and win the whole thing by manipulating everyone else into voting everyone else off except for her. And it was Ryan the whole time who had that power. Because I don't know why, though, because Ryan is the second worst one there, and I don't know how he won the season when you had Gary, and Gary was such a better contestant. He was so much more motivational, and I really wish that Gary had won the season. But that's another topic, because I'm fine with Ryan winning, because he really let himself down, and he let everyone else down when he just gained all the way back, apparently. And then Lisa, her last thing that she said on the show was really funny, too, because she said, "I came in here with a whiny, complainy attitude, and I'm leaving with, and I just wanted to add in the same fucking attitude, bitch. LOL." Seriously, she did not leave the show with a better attitude. She was still whiny and complainy leaving the show as well. And I would say that Dave was an underrated contestant, kind of. Because and I would also say, though, that Andrea was another underrated contestant, because I really liked Andrea a lot. She really worked hard, and she was another positive person in the house who was not trying to backstab people and play the game. She was a much better contestant than someone like Lisa. And so I was really sad to see Andrea and Dave go, because the thing that I liked about Dave was that when he was injured, he knew that he shouldn't exercise, and for that he was consistently shamed the whole season. Every time he would be like, "Nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, I'm not doing that." He would be shamed because he's not making his injury worse. And then I will also say that the theme song for the show is really, really bad. I really hope that they change the theme song. For some reason, I could never remember this theme song either. I couldn't even remember, ever hearing it as a kid, even though I watched every episode of Season 1, and I think Season 3, or maybe 2. And so I really don't like the theme song. That's another thing that I wish that they would change if I had to give them notes for Season 1. And then the second to last thing, or I guess the third to last thing to say, is that the Train the Trainer idea was really fun, because it was showing how the contestants are now able to plan out their own workouts in the future, because it shows that they're thinking like the trainers, which is very important, because when you're working out, you have to adapt the workout to yourself. You have to say, okay, this week I need to do 5 more pounds, and I need to push myself to do heavier weight to see if I can do that. And then a couple of weeks later, do 10 pounds more or something like that. You can't just be heavily reliant on the trainers, because the trainers were not going to be around anymore after they left the ranch. So, it was really cool seeing how the contestants had all become like the trainers in a way, to where they could think like them and plan out these workouts. It would have been funny too to see like the unedited footage of the trainers being tortured, because the contestants, they took all their anger out on the trainers of like all those 5-hour workouts, and it would have been really funny to see that. The second to last thing is, I just gotta say, like, the top three was Ryan, Gary, and Kelly. The other Kelly, because there were two Kellys. There was Kelly Mack and Kelly Min. And I will say that, like, even at the very beginning of the season, Kelly Min was extremely hot. Like, I felt like, she's another contestant where if she wasn't so heavy, I would have sworn that they were inserting her on the show as a plant. Because, she was so hot that I felt like she shouldn't even be on the show. And I kind of wish that she had won the season, because at the end of the season, her feet were in severe pain from tendinitis, from, overusing her feet and pushing them too hard. And I've actually had a similar thing to that before, because like this whole month in 2022, I was just on my feet all day. And so I had to deal with the same type of issue. And, I really think that she deserved to win after having to go through that, and then having to continue like working out even with having that, and, having to work around it. That's just terrible. And also Gary, it's really sad that he didn't win either, because I just look at Kelly Min and I look at Gary and I go, I wish that they had won instead of Ryan. Seriously. So anyways, I don't know if there's much else to say. I think that this was kind of fun to review, I guess. It is very fun to watch, though. Like, it is so good. It is such a great, like, comfort show. It's a great, like, guilty pleasure show. It's a great motivational show. It's just very superficial. It's very, very flawed. And, yeah. In terms of food, I have to give season 1 of The Biggest Loser a double cheeseburger from McDonald's with a medium fries, as well as a Bacon Ranch McCrispy, which they don't have anymore, unfortunately, and another medium fries, and also an extra large chocolate shake. Because even though this show is supposed to be like this health show, it is really unhealthy, the stuff that they show you, these contestants, what they're doing. It is a really, really bad show in terms of like taking weight loss advice. And so it's kind of like that typical like guilty pleasure experience where you know that what you're watching is bad, but you like to watch it anyway because it's so fun, it's so entertaining. And yeah, it would be really fun too to see the contestants again all these years later, and maybe like do a show called like I Survived the Biggest Loser, and then like maybe they're big now, they're overweight now, and like you could do a show about like trying to help them lose weight the healthy way, because I would be really interested to like see the impacts of what the show did on their bodies, and to see like them actually lose weight the healthy way. and to see them get better. So anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me, do you agree that Kelly Men is a 10 out of 10? And then also, please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon for American Horror Story Apocalypse Review. Goodbye.